All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is a hearing before the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals for Baltimore City. As we stated earlier, if you're going to testify, whether you are the applicant or in opposition, please make sure you have signed in on the sign-in sheet. Masks are required in the Board of Estimates room, so if you have a mask, please put one on. Before we get started, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Katie Byrne. I'm the Acting Executive Director for the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. To my right is Martin French. He's a representative for planning. To my left is Becky Witt, the board's attorney. We have with us board members Otis Freeman, Leland Shelton, Sabrina Turner is our acting chair today, and Bill Cunningham. So we have a 4-member panel for you today, and I will turn it over now to our chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am not James Field, so please bear with me as I remember all the things that he says when he says them in the correct order. We will be hearing your cases today. They may not necessarily be in the order that's listed on the docket on the door, so please listen for your number when it's called. At this time, if you have a cell phone, turn it to silent or do not disturb. If you need to have a conversation with someone, either on your cell phone or a human being in person, please go into the hall and do that. At the end of, so first we're going to call the matters for which we have enough information to make a decision without any testimony, and those are consent matters. We'll call them all together, hear them all quickly, and then get those people out of here. After that, we'll move on to our contested matters. At the end of each contested matter, after hearing all of the testimony from everybody, we will, as a board, deliberate right here on it. You are welcome to stay for that deliberation, but you cannot participate in it. And you'll be able to tell what we've decided, but please do not begin any work on your project until you receive the written decision in the mail. And as always in Baltimore City, please do not do any work on anything until you pull the proper permits. If you have any questions or want to hear the results of your case and can't stick around, you can call the BMZA office tomorrow at, I do not remember the phone number.
410-396-4301.
Okay. And with that being said, I'm going to call the consent docket numbers. The first person I call will start right here at the microphone, and then everyone else will go to my left, your right, in a line. We're going to swear all of you guys in together, and then we'll hear from each person individually about their project and move from there. Okay? So the first matter on our, I'm sorry, there are a couple matters that are being postponed today. So if you are here at all for case number 2021 or appeal number 2021-230, 501 to 503 South Broadway, that matter is being postponed and doesn't yet have a new June 21st. Oh, it's June 21st. The next one is 2022-171, 30 Pulteney Street. That is postponed with no new trial date. 2022-172, 901 Fell Street. That one's also being postponed with no new appeal hearing date. 2022-174 is postponed with no new hearing date. That's 123 Warren Avenue. And then 2022-208, 25 North Chester Street is being postponed to June the 21st, which is our next hearing. In 2 weeks. Okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to the consent docket. So the first case on the consent docket is 2021-214, 3358 Strickland Street. The appellant is Muhammad Salim. The next one is 2022-137, 500 South Linwood Avenue. The appellant is Carolyn Hecker. The next one is 2022-152, 307 East West Street. The appellant is Keith Randlett. The next one is 2022-161, 1812 to 1822 Greenmount Avenue. The appellant is 1812 Beverage Solutions, LLC. 2022-169, 5910 York Road, Caprice, Warren. And the next one is 2022-170, 1501 Clarkson Street. The appellant is Atlantic Homes LLC. And then the last one case on our consent docket is 2022-221, 3307 Labyrinth Road. The appellant is Bryce Lawn Care and Landscaping. So if you will all face our, where are you, is it a court reporter? Our court reporter, raise your right hand, and he's got you.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right.
One guy's one.
Yeah, I figured that. Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with Ms. Hecker, 2022-137, 500 South Linwood Avenue.
Hi, good afternoon. Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg Martin, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined by my associate, Brooke Hutchins, as well as Principal Matthew Hornbeck of the Hampstead Hill Academy.
Do you have anything you want to add to your application?
I would like to add this folder of exhibits to supplement your record, please.
Okay.
There's a letter of support in there from the Canton Community Association.
Okay. Well, the board having heard.
Well, do you,
You're right.
would you like to
Thank
hear?
you. Thank
would you
you.
like to hear more about it?
I would love to hear more about it.
All right, well, let's talk about it. All right, so we've got 2022-137, 500 South Linwood. The request was to construct a gymnasium building with a rooftop playground. The variance requested is maximum lot coverage. 70% is allowed, 95% is proposed, 25% variance is requested. I believe Mr. French, however, might have a different calculation. No? Okay. All right. All right, so that was right. No, it wasn't. I take it back. All right. Maximum lot coverage, 70% is allowed, 78% is proposed, so it's an 8% variance.
That's
How
right,
about that?
yes.
All right.
Thank you. Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and the plans that were accompanying it. Recommends approval of the application, subject to the condition that all building additions, improvements, and related landscaping are constructed or installed in accordance with plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Okay, now, the board having heard your appeal believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hecker.
Thank you.
All right. The next one is 307 East West Street, 2022-152, 307 East West Street, Keith Randlett.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you have any information you want to add to your project?
No, ma'am.
Let me go in my order. Go ahead.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Anything from you all?
Well, sure. All right. We've got 2022-152, 307 East West Street. To construct an addition at the first floor rear and second floor rear deck, variance is requested. Minimum rear yard setback, 20 feet is required, 8 feet, 2 inches are proposed, 11 feet, 10-inch variance requested. Maximum lot coverage, 80% allowed, 82% proposed, so it's a 2% variance for lot coverage.
Anything from planning?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Randlett, the board having heard your appeal believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is 2022-161, 1812 to 1822 Greenmount Avenue.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
For the record, Justin Williams, the law firm Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. I'm joined by my associate, Drew Tilden, and Ernst Valerie, the principal of the applicant.
Okay. I'll go in your order. Anything from planning?
So, do you want to go first? There we go. You go.
Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval. Thank you.
So the request is to use as a food processing light brewery in a C2 zone. So it's a conditional use for food processing light. I did want to ask Mr. Williams, are parking spaces required? Do they have 4 provided? Because if not, there would be a variance required for 4 off-street parking spaces.
We believe that max will be 4 employees per shift, and so there'll be sufficient parking for the use.
So you have the
Right.
you have the parking. You
It's
do
nine,
not need a
I
parking.
believe it's 9 spaces.
You do not need a parking variance. Okay, so it's just the conditional use food processing light. The entire project is to use the property, mixed-use office, brewery, and tavern. Office and tavern uses are allowed by right in C2 zone, but the brewery, which is food processing light, is the one that needs that conditional use approval by the board.
Okay, the board, having heard your appeal, believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal. Have a great day.
Thank you. For the record, I have
Oh.
exhibits and a letter of support from the Greenmount West Community Association.
Thank you. You can add those to the file. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, 2022-169, 5910 York Road, Caprice Warren.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that you?
Yes.
I'm going to go to them first.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the project for 2022-169, 5910 York Road, to use the second floor as an educational facility, commercial, vocational, and a C2 zoning district. Conditional use requested, educational facility, commercial, vocational. And one question we have for you, ma'am, are hours of operation and days of the week that you will be operating.
So we operate Monday through Sunday. We operate Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 10 a.m. We have both day and evening classes. On the weekend, we operate from 10 to 4 p.m.
Any comments from planning?
I do have a letter of support.
Oh, we're both short.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application and is recommending approval subject to the provision of the adequate off-street parking, which has already been discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Other than this, do you have anything else to add to your application?
No.
All right. The board, having heard your application, believes we have, or your appeal, believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. 2022-170, 1501 Clarkson Street, Atlantic Homes, LLC.
Correct.
What is your name,
Weaver. Frank Weaver.
Going to go for them first.
Okay.
All right.
So again, this is to construct a two-story rear addition and rooftop deck. 2 variances required. Maximum lot coverage, 60% is allowed, 72% is proposed, so 12-foot variance requested. Minimum rear yard setback, 25 feet is required, 0 is proposed, so it's the full 25-foot setback requested. I would note that there's an existing and proposed parking pad that go to the rear yard lot line now.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Weaver, do you have anything to add to your, you said Frank Weaver, correct?
That's correct.
Do you have anything to add to your application?
Only that what I am proposing to do there is very much in keeping with the other houses in the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. The board, having heard your appeal, believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal. And that's it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And then last but very not least, 2022-221, 3307 Labyrinth Road.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. Derek Baumgartner on behalf of Bry's Lawn Care and Landscaping from the law firm of Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston. I'm joined by our contractor, Brian Bowles, and the property owner, Isaac Pretter.
I know you know the order.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Again, this is 2022-221, 3307 Labyrinth Road. To construct a 1-story rear addition, pool, deck, and associated improvements. The variance is requested. Maximum impervious surface, 40% is allowed, 52.9% is proposed, so it's a 12.9% variance requested. Minimum interior side yard setbacks. South lot line, 15 feet is required, 2 feet is proposed, so it's a 13-foot variance requested. And the north side lot line, 15 foot is required, 10 feet 8 inches proposed, a 4-foot 4-inch variance requested. Minimum rear yard setback, 30 feet is required, 24.5 feet is proposed, so it's a 5.5-foot variance requested.
And the Planning Department had no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Baumgartner, do you have anything to add to your application, or to your appeal?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I have a memorandum detailing the justification for the variances. Included as an exhibit is a letter from the immediately adjacent neighbor in support of the application.
The board, having heard your appeal, believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Have a great day.
Very well done.
Yes, very well done. We are going to move on to the contested portion of the docket for today. When the case is called, if you're here in support or in opposition, we're going to have everyone stand up and swear you all in at the same time. But the way that the order will proceed is the person who filed the appeal gets to put on their case first, and then any opposition, and then the person who filed the appeal has the last word. When you come up to speak, please introduce yourself and spell your name, no matter how common you think the spelling is, so that our court reporter can get everything down. And this proceeding is a little like court, but it's a little more informal. So if you do have questions, please ask them. And try not to duplicate testimony from someone else if you are in opposition to that. We promise we hear you the first time. All right. The first, and just so, in case he's here yet, I'm still looking for 2021-214, 3358 Strickland Street. That is on the consent docket. So when that appellant shows up, we might take a pause to handle that quickly and get that person out of here. Okay. So the first one on the regular docket is 2021-251, 4434 Falls Road. The appellant is Richardson Engineering, LLC. So if you are in support and it's your appeal, you're on this side. If you are the other side of that, you are going to be to this side of the lectern for now.
And if I may, Madam Chairperson,
Sure.
It's my understanding that there is a letter in opposition. We have not had a chance to speak with them. May we have a chance to do so?
Yes, yes, please. We can move you down a couple. Whenever we get to the next spot, we'll take you. Just let someone know when you're back in and you are done talking.
Always appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Go ahead. You hear in opposition, correct? So what he's going to do is he wants to have a conversation with you. I think it might help sort out some of the issues. Might even make it go away all entirely. All right. So then let's call 2022-142, 1501 North Bentley. The appellant is Nick Bowes. So if all of you all can raise your right hand and face my court reporter.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and state your name.
Nate Prettle. I'm here as a consultant on behalf of the property owner, and I can introduce them now or...
One second.
So 2022-142, 1501 North Bentaloo, to use the premises as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 dwelling units. Minimum lot area variance, 3,750 square feet required. 2,350 square feet exist, so it's a 1,400 square foot variance requested. Off-street parking space, 1 space is required, 0 spaces are proposed. So 1 space variance requested. It's my understanding it was originally 2 dwelling units, and they're here for an addition of a 3rd dwelling unit. We have 1 letter of opposition in the file from Dr. Marvin Cheatham, citing issues related to crime in the neighborhood. Says that the owner is not involved in the community. That's all we have.
Okay, Mr. Prettle. Oh, sorry, planning.
All right. Planning Department reviewed this application. Notes that the amount of lot area variance required for approval of 3 units would be 37.5%. The department considers that an excessive amount, given the fact that also for the 2 dwelling units that are presently approved for this property, if that was being done today, that would require a 22% lot area variance. The department is therefore recommending disapproval of the application because the amount and proportion of the lot area variance needed for approval of 3 dwelling units is excessive in relation to the criteria established in the zoning code. The increased amount of variance required to add another dwelling unit to the existing multifamily dwelling would be based upon action of a person with an interest in the property. Thank you.
All right. Now it's on you, Mr. Prettle.
All right, great. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Nate Prettle. Again, I'm here with Clinton Brown, who is a business partner with Nick Bovies, who's the applicant, as well as Richard Negri, the architects. And I think all 3 of us can either answer questions or speak to it. But so the request, as Ms. Burns stated, is to add an additional unit to the existing 2-unit structure at 1501 North Bentaloo. And I think the location and the configuration of this structure are really key to our request and how we view this property. This is an end-of-group property on the corner of Bendelow and Pressman Street. And it's unique in its location that it's directly across Bendelow from Easterwood Park and directly across Pressman Street from Carver High School. And so not only is it an end of group, it is also sort of an end of the immediate area. And that's relevant for both the density and the off-street parking variances that I'll speak to in a minute. So the property has been used as 2 units for quite some time, and that's 1 unit on the 2nd floor, 1 unit on the 3rd floor. When Mr. Brown and his business partner purchased it, and started looking at the potential for renovation, they realized that the ground level lays out very nicely without any structural work for an additional dwelling unit. And the configuration being an end unit, we have windows even on the ground level, both at the front and on the side. So it meets building code without having to do any sort of structural work to the unit. In regards to the off-street parking situation, there is ample parking day and night because of the lack of residences across either streets from this. And being a corner unit, you'll find throughout Baltimore City, but also in sort of the Easterwood Park neighborhood, these corner units, the other side of Bentlow is multifamily dwelling. You go across that street. So most of the corner units are either mixed use in nature or multifamily. We feel this is an appropriate request for the reasons I stated, but I'd like Mr. Brown to talk about what he is providing in these units. We're taking a vacant not vacant, but a vacant portion of it and having a high quality, affordable housing unit in a neighborhood and in a city that is in dire need of quality, affordable housing units. And so, Mr. Brown, you want to talk a little bit about some of your other work?
Yes, how you guys doing this afternoon?
Good.
All right, thank you. So my name is Clifton Brown. I'm a real estate investor in the West Baltimore area, and pretty much what I do is I buy vacant, distressed properties, all new electrical, plumbing, HVAC, all new systems, top to bottom. And what I do is I provide it to people that are on subsidized programs, such as, Veterans Affairs, rapid rehousing, Section 8, women that are, escaping abuse situations, and I allow them to come live in my properties that, they wouldn't, any other time have an opportunity to even live in a property like this, because most times they're not allowed to or offered the property. I feel like a property in this area. I've been out here 3 years now, and I've had no issues with the people and the vouchers, and I actually noticed that it boosts their morale. They care more. They care more about their space, which is what West Baltimore needs, to people to care about themselves and their space. And so that's kind of, my formula, and I've been doing that for 3 years. That's just kind of what I'm trying to do for the community of West Baltimore.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And we'd be happy to answer any questions, but I would like to address the letter from Mr. Doc Cheatham. And anytime we get a letter from Mr. Doc Cheatham, we take that very, very seriously, because of his work in the communities for as long as anyone could be. But he speaks specifically to a property that's not in front of the board today at 1509 Bentlow, and the problems there, as well as other properties on this block. And the problems come from the fact that there's no one there, that they're vacant, that they're blighted, that they're underutilized. And maybe I'm misinterpreting some of the rationale behind the letter, but I think the problems that are mentioned in that letter feel strongly that having an active, well-maintained, quality multifamily dwelling would seek to address, not exacerbate, issues such as crime or loitering. So we feel that this is an appropriate request. I'd urge the board to approve it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there parking on the Easterwood Park side of Bentlow?
I believe so, yes.
You can park opposite, yes.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Just briefly, to address the variance standard, what about the property, physically, given the shape or anything, make it unnecessary hardship?
Sure. So again, the corner units being different, and the uniqueness I think I spoke to, the hardship is there's not a whole lot else we can do with the rest of this space, in this building. It's right now, it would be cost prohibitive to add this to an additional dwelling unit. And so we feel the most appropriate thing is to create a separate unit there. And so that's really what our hardship, is.
What is it right now? Just empty?
Yes. Yeah, the basement floor, yes. And so the other units had been occupied until recently, and now this request would involve a renovation of the entire building. Yep.
And the third unit would go where?
It would be on the ground level.
The ground level, this
Correct.
is upstairs.
There's one on the 2nd or 3rd floor. So the ground level, I don't want to call it a basement unit because it's not really the basement. But it, it has windows throughout, and being the corner unit really could create a nice unit. If this were an interior unit like the rest of the block, I do not think this would be an appropriate request. But the fact that it is a corner unit, we have windows along the side wall, that allows it to function as a quality one-bedroom apartment.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
you said you have other properties in the city where you do the same thing?
Yes.
How many others?
I have 10 other rental properties. This is my, I want to say, third multifamily row home. But I do have 2 others in Edmondson Village. And so, like I say, man, I just try to pick up this community. I see in a city that's in need. This is a passion of mine. So I do things by the book. And I feel like this property could use someone to actually live in it. There's kids there across the high school, and they hang out at the houses that aren't lived in. I feel like this will kind of push them out and show them that the community's changing, you know what I mean? So, as I stated, every person I rent to, it changes their morale and their attitude about life, and that's kind of what this city needs.
Thank you.
If I could, I would like to address Mr. Freeman about one other point about your question. I think this would be a very different situation if we were also asking for, an addition to create more space on the property to allow for a third unit. But we're, asking for it within the existing envelope, of the building right now. So I think there's a distinction that needs to be made. Also, a request, we're not asking for density variance as well as additional room in the building to include that area that also needs a variance. This, with the second and third floor over 1,000 square feet, and this unit would be over 750 square feet, which we feel are appropriate, unit sizes. And
yeah, please. Richard Negri, architect and engineer of record, and Mr. Freeman, if I may also address your question regarding hardship. One of the other concerns also with multifamily homes, typically the occupants, if the basement level or the walkout level is typically unattended to or uninhabited, it's typically prone for break-ins. By adding in that additional space and converting it into an actual dwelling unit without changing the overall structure of the property allows it, actually addresses Dr. Chetham's request to pretty much what are the options that Mr. Brown are actually putting into thwart threats of crime, particularly break-ins that may be prone to the West Baltimore area, by creating that into a dwelling space that addresses that potential hardship for possible break-ins as well.
Oh, you look like you have one more thing to say.
Nope, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Does anyone else have any questions? Any other questions? And as there is no opposition, we're going to deliberate right now. So you guys can have a seat, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a yes. All the requirements under the code.
Okay.
And variance.
Yeah. I was persuaded by Mr. Prettle's argument that they're not asking for an addition. They're just asking to do something with the space that's there, and there's nothing else you can really do with it. And by Mr. Negri's argument that you would give it that space somebody to be in charge of it. You're basically making someone in charge of that space.
Is there anything about this property, like the physical surrounding shape or the structure that make it a hardship for them to not be able to comply with the?
You mean to put something else there?
Well, I mean,
because it's space, and they want to use the space.
Variance I guess I'm saying that they're asking to not have to comply with the variance for the lot variance, right?
But they're not changing the size of the house. So the house covers that much of the lot already. So they're just asking to use the bottom part of that existing structure as something.
Okay.
And that something is an additional dwelling unit, given that there's already 2 more there, and that Mr. Brown is engaged in the business of. He doesn't own a string of convenience stores. He does rental properties, and so.
Okay. No, I think I agree. I just wanted to talk it through.
That's fine.
Yeah. And I also will agree for the fact that it's not. It doesn't affect the use and enjoyment of the property, in the immediate vicinity as well.
No.
So. it's not like you said before, it actually will enhance the fact that there's someone living in the basement, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree.
Wanna-
Also, yes, after reading the application and hearing the testimony today, I believe it meets the standard.
Agreed. Yes.
Yes, for the reasons I stated.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Before we go on, the first person on our docket is here.
All right, we are going to call case number 2021-214, 3358 Strickland Street. Muhammad Salim is the appellant. Come on up, Mr. Salim. You're Mr. Salim?
Yes.
Will you raise your right hand and be sworn in?
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, we're going to hear from planning and from our office first, and then we'll get to you, okay? All right.
Planning Department has no additional comment on this application.
The request is to use as 2 dwelling units. A variance for off-street parking is required. 1 space is required, and a 1-space variance is requested.
Mr. Salim, we have one question for you about this. Your property already has 1 dwelling unit, and then there's a commercial space, correct?
Yes.
And is it your intention to turn that commercial space into the second dwelling unit?
It is.
Okay, and it'll fit, that whole unit will fit into the commercial space? That's a weird, I asked that question in a weird way, I understand. The commercial space becomes another apartment, correct?
It is right behind the main structure of the house.
Okay, okay.
About 7 feet past the rear wall.
Okay. Well, the board, with that knowledge, the board, or that information, the board, having heard your appeal, believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal. So thank you for coming. And you missed this part of it. Don't do any work until you get a written decision in the mail. And don't do any work in Baltimore City until you pull the permits, but yeah.
I'll comply.
Okay. Well, have a great day. Thank you. All right.
Before we get started, if you could recall the 2021-251-4434 Falls Road.
2021-251-4434 Falls Road. The appellant is Richardson Engineering, LLC. Will you all, anyone who will be, did you all guys already swear yourselves in?
If I may, very briefly.
Yeah.
Abraham Hurdle, on behalf of the appellants, we're going to actually ask for a postponement for 2 weeks.
Okay.
We've had some requests and discussions with the community. There's a little bit of a concern about traffic. We're going to have a traffic study done. We don't think there's necessarily an issue, but we're happy to meet that need.
2 weeks is all you need?
Absolutely.
That's not up to me. I was just making sure if you're going to have a whole traffic study done, that you can get it done in 14 days.
If you guys think you can get it done and everything is good, then.
We know a guy.
Hey, it's always good to know a guy.
Absolutely.
So what we'll do is we will go ahead and put on the 621 docket. Please be sure you change your sign today to reflect the new date of 621.
Perfect. Much
Thank you.
appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next on the regular docket is 2022-148, 301 East Patapsco Avenue. The appellant is the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. All right, anyone who might possibly potentially testify, raise your right hand and face my court reporter.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Will each of you state and spell your name right now, and then we don't have to worry about it later?
I'm Ron Ilkovich. Ron is R-A-N. Ilkovich is I-L-K-O-V-I-T-C-H.
Okay.
Cindy Smith, C-Y-N-D-I-S-M-I-T-H.
Y before I?
Y before I.
Okay.
Yes.
Maurice Gaskins, M-A-U-R-I-C-E. M-A-U-R-I-C-E. G-A-S-K-I-N-S.
And it's Monica Wharton. Monica Wharton. M-O-N-I-C-A. C-A-W-H-A-R-T-O-N.
It's Peter Soprano. That's P-E-T-E-R-S-O-P-R-A-N.
All right. Say your last name again. Yours was
Ilkovich.
Mr. Ilkovich. Tell us, let me go to the.
To run it down? Okay. So the project proposes to construct a 2-story rear addition to the existing school. There are 5 conditional uses / variances requested. The first, conditional use educational facility, primary and secondary. The second, maximum front yard setback, 5 feet is required, 22 feet is proposed, 17-foot variance requested. Third, minimum interior yard setback, 10 feet is required, 0 is proposed, so it's a full 10-foot variance requested. 4, off-street parking, 1 space per 4 employees on a peak shift, plus 1 space per 50 students based on the maximum student capacity. 0 spaces are proposed, so it's a full variance requested for off-street parking. 5, 1 long-term bicycle parking space per 20 employees on a peak shift, plus 1 space per 50 students based on maximum student capacity is required. 0 long-term bike parking spaces are proposed, so it was a full variance to bicycle parking.
And Mr. French?
Planning Department has reviewed this application and does not have a formal comment. However, the department notes that this property is located in the Brooklyn and Curtis Bay Urban Renewal Plan area, and therefore, if the board approves this application, we would recommend that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all construction, improvements, landscaping, and signage are completed or installed in accordance with development, building, and landscaping plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Okay, tell us about your project.
So City Schools bought this piece of,
Keep your voice up and come close to the mic so we can get it all recorded.
purchased this property as an annex to the adjacent elementary K through 8 school. The capacity of the school is roughly 215% of its state-rated capacity for its current use. The people who will be using the school are already on site. They're on the adjacent property. The intent is to use this as an annex for pre-K through 1st grade. There are some site-related particular hardships of the site. They include a historic church, which we will be restoring as a part of the project, which relates to some of the setbacks that we can't meet because they're existing to remain. Other hardships are that the property is bound on 3 sides by streets, so the side yard, rear yard setbacks are particularly difficult, and we want to bring the new school as close as possible to the existing school for whatever transitions are going on between the two. With regards to parking and bicycle parking, all of the people that will be in this building are already on the site. They're accommodated in the adjacent property and the surrounding communities already. So we see no change in occupant capacity for the project.
Okay.
So you do have bicycle parking on site?
I'm not sure if there's bicycle parking next door, but
There is some small bicycle parking on the existing school already. So it's the adjacent property.
Was it like bike racks? Or?
Yes. Yeah.
So what you're doing is did I hear you right? You said it's 215% of the students you have twice as many students in a school building that should be in there?
More than twice as many, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is this, I pulled it up on Google Maps, but do the children have to cross a street to get to between the 2 different properties, or is it all together?
So the idea is going to be that the pre-K to 2, the pre-K to 1st grade students, that's why we want to make it a pre-K to 1 annex, will be fairly self-sufficient within that space. If anybody crosses, it'll be primarily staff, health, nurse, an art teacher coming back and forth to teach arts, that kind of thing.
Okay. How many teachers do you have there, or how many employees total do you have in the existing space? And that number is not going to change, correct?
The number does not change.
Okay.
We're going to pull up, because I don't know off the top of my head how many teachers there are already.
Do you know how many students there are? That's my next question.
there are 706 students current enrollment.
And once again, that number's not changing.
Correct.
Yes.
It's just, you're taking about a third of them across the street, the
correct.
littlest ones.
Yes.
Is there, because these are the tiniest ones, is there a drop-off area for them, like a car or bus drop-off area?
There will be. Cambria Street goes in one direction from the east to the west. We will have a side entrance that's intentionally made to accept those students in a safe manner. So they'll get out of the car on the right side, go right into the door.
Okay.
Cambria Street. So yes, we considered that.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Does anyone else up here have anything to add? It's okay if you don't. Okay. With that, we are going to deliberate on your matter, and you will be able to hear us in the very weirdest way possible.
We appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that it is unique because it is an existing church. I think that uniqueness creates an undue hardship of, not wanting to tear down the church and rebuild it. If the bicycle parking already exists at the school, a first grader is not, more likely than not going to need the bicycle parking the way a fifth grader will. So I don't know that it's necessary to have it on that side of the street. What was most compelling is it's the same amount of people. It's just more space for them. I think, for me, that's what it is. And if all the teachers and staff already have a place to park, then I don't see a reason to not grant a parking variance.
I agree, and I think it meets the conditional use requirements under the code.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree for the reasons Sabrina gave about the variances. It's not going to increase the number of teachers, correct, from what I remember, and from the amount of students. Also, the hardship. Also, I believe they didn't mention that there's streets on all sides, or three sides.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're converting the church as well. As far as the conditional use, as we know, they're presumed to be allowed. And here, I didn't hear anything that is to be like a detriment to the community in any way. In fact, it sounds like it might help.
Yeah, usually we're worried about how this will affect the school, but this is literally a school.
It's a school.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, I agree.
Yeah, after reviewing the application and hearing today's testimony, particularly about the uniqueness of the property, I believe that they meet the standard for variance, and I also believe they meet the standard for conditional use for the education facility.
I agree. I do want to mention the urban renewal plan. I think that we do have to put something in about having all renovations and construction be subject to the Brooklyn and Curtis Bay urban renewal plan. That's what it's called? Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Alrighty. So for all those reasons, I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
For the reasons stated.
You got to say it out loud.
I thought that was yes. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Next up, we have 2022-159, 3900 to 3902 Boston Street. The appellant is Justin Williams.
Good afternoon. Playing the role of Justin Williams today, Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin Greenberg, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined.
He should be so lucky.
He should be so lucky. Indeed. I'm joined by my colleague, Brooke Hutchins, and this is Jay Saperstein, a representative of the developer.
So will you spell your name?
Yes. JaySappperstein.
And you also?
Brooke, Brooke, last name Hutchins, Hutchins.
And if you can all raise your right. You've all already been sworn in, haven't you? You two have.
We're attorneys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give in the statements that you make will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Go for it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was cleaning my space.
Baltimore City Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this particular property is in the C2 zoning district. This is an extension of the Brewers Hill area into what was formerly the northern edge of the Canton industrial area. Therefore, this is part of a substantial redevelopment of this entire area. The amount of signage allowed for wall signs at the ground floor level, according to Table 17-201 of the zoning code, is 1 per tenant with direct ground floor access and 1 per street frontage for a corner tenant.
Martin, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Try again. Okay, the amount of signage allowed for wall signs at ground floor level, according to Table 17-201 in the zoning code, is 1 per tenant with direct ground floor access and 1 per street frontage for a corner tenant. The Cava portion of this building is not proposed to have any ground floor level wall signs, but the Shake Shack portion of the building, which would occupy the portion of the new building nearest the intersection of Boston and Haven Streets, would have 1 sign per street frontage. The table allows for wall signs 2 per corner lot, and both of these signs would be placed on the Cava portion of the building. And this would comply with the limits provided in the table in the zoning code. However, the application also proposes variance of sign area. For the Shake Shack portion of the building, 2 wall signs, one containing approximately 84 square feet, and the other containing approximately 70 square feet, will be in lieu of the 18 square feet per wall sign allowed by Table 17-201. For the Cava portion of the building, there would be 2 wall signs, approximately 25 square feet each, in lieu of the 18 square feet allowed by Table 17-201. The application also proposes variances of maximum and minimum sign heights for a freestanding pole sign. It's noted that the portion of the proposed multi-tenant pole sign assigned to Shake Shack would be approximately 3 square feet per sign face. The larger freestanding pole sign on which this tenant's signage would be displayed requires variances of 3 feet in lieu of 10 feet of minimum pole height and 21 feet in lieu of 6 feet for maximum sign face height. The variances, if approved, would be for the benefit of more than the 2 tenants of the new building at 3900 to 3902 Boston Street because of that. The department therefore recommends that approval of this application, if granted, be subject to the condition that all signs are installed and maintained in accordance with the site and development plans for the Collective at Canton, as the name of the development is, recorded at the Planning Department, approved by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
So I'm going to say a lot of numbers. All right, and I'm going to try to, and I'm going to repeat a lot of what Mr. French said, but I think it's probably good to hear it twice because it's a lot. So the variance requested is to install signage as shown on the plans that were submitted that the board received. The following relief has been requested. This is C2 ground floor signs. A maximum sign area variance, 65.72 square feet for 1 proposed wall sign on the south elevation of Shake Shack, comprising 83.72 square feet. Maximum sign area variance of 51.72 square feet for 1 sign proposed on the east elevation of Shake Shack, comprising 69.72 square feet. So the number I'm giving you is the variance requested. The first number, a maximum area sign variance of 6.6 square feet for 1 proposed wall sign on the south elevation of the Cava, comprising of 24.6 square feet. A maximum sign area variance of 6.6 square feet for 1 proposed wall sign on the west elevation of Cava, comprising 24.6 square feet. Article 32, Table 17-201 prescribes a maximum sign area of 16 square feet for freestanding pole signs in a C2 district. The following relief has been requested to this requirement. Maximum sign area variance of 131.58 square feet for 1 proposed freestanding sign pole, comprising 147.58 square feet. Article 32, Table 17-201 prescribes a minimum pole height of 10 feet for a freestanding pole sign in a C2 district, whereas the proposed pole height is 3 feet. A minimum variance of 7 feet is required. Article 32, Table 17-201 prescribes a maximum sign height of 6 feet for a freestanding pole sign located in a C2 district, whereas the proposed sign height is 21.08 feet. A variance of 15.08 feet is required. So that's it. Well,
all right.
That's it for the numbers.
That's it.
Ms. Hecker, tell us about this project.
Thank you. Some of you may recall, this is probably the third or fourth time this project has been in front of the zoning board for a variety of different approvals relating to the broader Collective at Canton development. The project overall is a $100 million shopping center project. It includes not only a retail component of about 60,000 square feet, but also an office building that's about 95,000 square feet, and a 500-unit apartment building located along Boston Street at Haven Street in the southeast part of the city in Canton, Brewers Hill. There's a letter of support in the file that you'll see that covers a wide variety of the approvals that were going to be needed as part of this project. It's a joint letter from both the Brewers Hill and the Canton associations. But what we're here for today, as Ms. Byrne and Mr. French indicated, is signage for a portion of the project, which is a Shake Shack and Cava restaurant building. It's a structure of about 6,000 square feet that will have 2 restaurants with drive-throughs, which the zoning board has already approved. And it's located pretty much at the intersection of Boston Street and Haven Street. And I'd like my colleague Brooke Hutchins can hand out a series of exhibits which will illustrate a little bit more clearly specifically what we're requesting. There are site plans in the file as well as plans showing the signage that's proposed. There's also some additional documentation about the project generally, some press that it's received.
All these are the same?
They're all the same, yes. But in a nutshell, to get to the gist of what brings us here today, this site is unique because of ite topography. The intersection at Boston and Haven Street actually sits about 10 feet higher than the site at the intersection is about 10 feet above the road. There's a 10-foot retaining wall on that corner, and the building is set back about 100 feet, as you'll see on the site plan, from that intersection. And so if you look at the elevations of the buildings, you'll see that the signage looks to be consistent with signage that you would expect on quick service restaurants, certainly on national chains. It's not, out of kilter in terms of size, but it needs to be that big in order to be visible to passersby on Boston Street and on Haven Street, which are both significant thoroughfares. They're commuter routes in and out of the city. They're both truck routes. And because there isn't immediate access to this part of the site by way of a curb cut directly in front of these restaurants, passersby, motorists along either street need to be able to see and identify the restaurants with enough time to turn in safely and not be cutting across lanes of traffic in order to access the site. So we do believe that the increased size of the signs is appropriate for this location. Due to the unique topography of the site. You'll see if you flip to the back of the file, there are some photos of the retaining wall and the buildings as they are under construction. You can see that they do sit above the roadway significantly, and that it is set back from the right-of-way line. There are elevations of the buildings in the file, as I mentioned, that show the specific signage that is requested. One thing that sort of, may have jumped out at you in terms of the size of the signs. You'll see the Cava signs are significantly smaller than the Shake Shack signs. That's largely to do with the fact that the word Cava is only 4 letters and Shake Shack is 10. They need a bigger sign because it's a bigger name of the restaurant. But if you look at the elevations, you'll see that their logos are roughly comparable in size. It's just that Shake Shack has more letters. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have. I can go through the exhibits in more detail if you want. I know I gave you a lot of stuff to look at, but in an effort to cut to the chase, was trying to focus on the factors that make the site unique and the reason for the requested variance.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Part of the reason you need signs this big is because of the retaining wall?
Yeah, the topography of the site and the fact that the building is set far back from the intersection.
That was a decision made because of how the ground is, or was that like an aesthetic choice to set it back?
No, it was necessary because of the slope of the site.
Okay.
The site slopes significantly down as you come down Haven Street southwards ultimately towards the waterfront, but as you get closer to the sort of industrial area. This was all part of an Exxon refinery until relatively recently. It's undergone a cleanup. There are still monitoring wells on the site.
So you're saying that the creation of a retaining wall creates a hardship, resolves a hardship?
The creation of the retaining wall addresses the topography of the site that makes the site, it's necessary to make the site flat to build the structures on. And it's that same topography that creates the need for additional visibility for the restaurants.
Mr. French said something about it would benefit all the future tenants. Is this what he means?
There's a pole, yes, that's the pole sign for the shopping center generally, yes.
Any way that you can kind of just, I'm trying to just get a better idea of the retaining wall about how high.
It's about 10 feet high. There's a couple of photos at the very back of the file. Looks roughly like this.
Okay, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, there's a few of them, I think, that show sort of the angle of, when you're right at that intersection of Boston Street and Haven Street.
And you're saying for people to see the sign, because it's on a corner, it's at an intersection.
It's at an intersection, but there isn't a curb cut into the site right there, so you have to see it far enough back to turn into the shopping center at the curb cut, at the access point to the shopping center. If you make it all the way to the intersection, you're not going to be able to turn in.
Okay.
So
You've gone too far.
You've gone too far, exactly.
Yeah, it's before you get to the restaurant. You need to be able to see that the restaurant is there.
Exactly.
Are there any other structures that kind of like limit visibility coming towards there? Because I see there's some taller.
There's some taller structures as you head north, and in fact, that's a 500-unit apartment building in the rear. As you're coming down Haven Street, you wouldn't even see the corner until you got past the apartment building.
Okay.
I have no other questions.
Mr. Cunningham?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Do any of your other people have anything that they want to add?
Anything you want to add? No. I think
Do you have
good.
anything else you would like to add?
I have nothing further.
All
Thank
right.
you.
We will, again, deliberate this right now. Take this up for deliberation right now.
I think the topographical conditions as outlined create a hardship in this project, which is going to be solved by building the retaining wall.
Correct.
I think particularly they made a good case of why the variance needed to be so much, because, why the sign had to be so big.
Yeah.
Due to those, conditions. And they had the community support, so
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like that sign is going to cause too much trouble. So I'm in favor.
It's all the suite of signs. It's not going to look any differently than Shake Shack or Kava does anywhere else.
And it's a shopping center.
Yeah, it's a shopping center.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it was a good discussion as to why the physical surroundings and the shape of the property would create an undue hardship. There's no evidence that is getting presented today that there's going to be any type of injurious caused by these signs causing any kind of anything with traffic or any kind of situation. So I agree.
If Chick-fil-A across the street was debating it, it'd be a war. But I think that it's... Yeah, it is. Their neighbors across the street are also a shopping center. So.
Right.
For all of those reasons, I am a yes.
I'm a yes for
I'm a yes.
I guess as well.
What is a Shake Shack? What is a Kava?
Ooh.
It's like
But
a
it's Iranian. Fast casual.
Fast casual.
One,
Gotcha, thank you.
one step up from drive-through.
It's delicious. You'll love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. That one was, that one. Okay, 2022, nope, not that one. Not that one. 2022-173, 1315 Harlem Avenue. The appellant is Bashar Hijazi. Is that Bashar Hijazi or someone?
For 1315 Harlem Avenue? Anyone here
Anyone
for
here for that?
1315 Harlem Avenue?
All right. We'll recall it again, but for now we'll move on. 2022-175, 4006 Pinewood Avenue. The appellant is Jessica Starling.
Hi.
Hi, are you Miss Starling?
No, I'm Antoinette Smith.
Will you spell your name?
Yes, it's ANTOINETTE, and last name is Smith, SMITH.
Will you raise your right hand and take the oath?
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Well,
first, how are you related to the
I'm just her proxy. She can't be here today.
Okay.
And so I just want to, I have my notes that she gave me.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me hold on that for 1 minute.
Okay, sure.
We will hear from planning. Or from Katie?
Well, both, I guess. So the request is to use as a multifamily dwelling with 2 units. We've done a lot of research on this particular property. There is some evidence that was provided by the applicant to show 2 heat pumps, 2 hot water heaters were installed in the house shortly after it was built in 1984. Based on what we have in the file, it has shown through the construction permits, the original application was for 1 dwelling unit that was rented as 1 dwelling unit. All of the real property files show it as 1 dwelling unit from the time that it was constructed. The property was probably illegally converted into 2 units, either when it was constructed or after it was constructed. There's a letter in the file from the downstairs tenant saying he's lived in the unit for 30 years and it's always been 2 units. However, the land use cards are very, very clear that it has only ever been 1 legitimate dwelling unit there. There's no evidence of a legal conversion to 2 units. When we looked, we also looked in the rental registration records, and it shows 1 unit, 1 rental, right? So whether, and there may be history that an owner lived in 1 unit and the other was rented, but legally it has only ever been 1 dwelling unit in the records. And when you apply for a permit, you can, for 1 house, you can put 2 kitchens in. You can do 2 hot water heaters. You can do 2 of whatever you want, but the description was 1 dwelling unit and always has been on the construction permits and in the land use cards.
Katie, what year was the house built?
1984.
Ms. Smith,
I'm sorry?
1984.
Before we hear from planning, let me ask you a question. Are the notes on your phone related to the existence of 2 units? And I know that Ms. Starling has sent you here in her proxy.
Yes.
Do you feel comfortable testifying about this and trying to make this case for her? Or is this something that you want to postpone and have her come back here and do it for herself?
No, I feel comfortable. I mean, I've seen the actual building. If you see the building, it looks like a multi. Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
so that I just wanted to know
Sorry
that
about
before we hear from
Yeah.
planning. We're going to hear from him and then we'll discuss your case.
Planning Department actually has no official comment on this application. However, we do note that the applicant included as part of the information a copy of a permit which appears to have been issued in 1985, which refers to providing 250 amp panels, presumably meaning circuit breaker panels, but 1 meter, presumably 1 electric meter. And that may be the reason that this property did not come to the attention of building officials at the time as a multifamily dwelling being constructed in what was a zone that did not allow multifamily dwellings, which was the R3. Thank you.
So Ms. Smith, let me tell you where we are.
Okay.
And from what Ms. Byrne and Mr. French have said, is that even if this literally has a sign on the front of the door that says Apartment A and Apartment B, is not legally zoned to have 2 units. So as it sits right now, unless you have some information from a file or from somewhere, not just like visibly inspecting it, but like literal actual information from like permit or a card or some sort of historical information that we're missing, we can't approve Ms. Starling's request to have 2 dwelling units here, even if functionally there are 2 units in this house.
And it's been that way for 30 years.
And it's been that way for 30 years, yeah.
So what would she need to do because she purchased this from someone in 2020, and so it's kind of like she got
You would
stuck
be
with it.
maybe unsurprised at how often that this happens and that this is before us. The short answer is she has to, get a city council person to change the.
It's actually worse news because it's R3. In R3, you cannot have.
Well, that's what they told us, and and
cannot have. So there is no city council ordinance. The BMZA doesn't have the jurisdiction or authority to approve it. There's no mechanism.
So there have been no exceptions.
There's no exception because in 1984 they weren't allowed to have it, but they did what they did. It's my guess based on, and I'm just assuming this based on what's put in, that they constructed it, always intended to use it as 2 dwelling units and never identify it. We've gotten a lot of these lately because in 2019, the city required third-party inspections for 1 and 2 family dwellings to receive a rental license.
Yep.
So the reason why we have seen so many people come in is because they've applied for use and occupancy. They've applied for rental licenses, and the rental license office is like, where's your use and occupancy? They apply for use and occupancy, they're denied. They come here, and we can't, there's no jurisdiction for this board to grant it. So for a long time, the 2 family, 3 family dwellings went under the radar. And really it's just been in the recent years with the requirement of a third-party inspection for a rental license. That's why we're getting a flood of these, because we have illegal multifamily dwellings that were never captured before.
Okay. So there's
I'm
no
sorry.
recourse for her at all in terms of, it would just have to, she would have to keep it as a single-family home.
She could keep it, she doesn't have to do any construction. She could keep it as a single-family home, but she'd have to rent it to one group.
Gotcha.
The zoning code says you're not allowed to have more than 4 unrelated people in one single-family dwelling. So she could rent the entire structure. She just couldn't rent it to like 2 separate groups or people, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
time. And please tell Ms. Starling if anything about that was unclear, that she can always call the BMZA office. I just hope you can communicate that to her. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to go with what's written in red. The board cannot approve this request as it is an illegal conversion. For that reason, I am a no.
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 That was easy, huh? All right, we've got 2 more.
We actually have 3 more. We have one.
Oh, that's right.
We discovered that was not on the docket as well.
Do you
They're
have-
here? They've provided their information.
Okay.
I don't. Is there anybody here in opposition for 2022 160 1837 Clifton Avenue? So if you
Come on
want
up.
to take Clifton, we
Yep.
can take Clifton. Sorry to keep you
Katie,
guys
will you
here
say
for so long.
will you say the number again?
Certainly. So this is 2022 160. The property is 1837 Clifton Avenue. This is for a conditional, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna, that's okay. This is for a conditional use, neighborhood commercial, to use the 2nd floor as a beauty barber shop, personal services, neighborhood commercial establishment. And
For the record, will you state both of your names and spell them, and then I'll have them have our court reporter put you under oath just in case.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Denitra Bell, Danitra, and my last name is Bell, Bell.
Okay.
Carmichael Kennedy, first name Carlmichal, last name Cannady.
All right.
just to give just a little bit more.
Wait 1 second, Katie.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have land use and zoning cards going back to the 1950s for commercial use at this particular property. We had restaurants on the 1st floor. We had, hold on 1 second, grocery stores and delicatessens at this particular location. And I'm going to give this to Mr. French really quickly for him to take a look. And then I will tell you the last use as well.
And this would be on our consent docket technically.
It would have been on our consent docket, yes.
That makes it way easier for you.
Yeah, we weren't sure, so I waited a little bit to see if anybody, so I apologize for keeping
Yeah,
you
sure,
guys.
no problem at all. Thank you for accommodating.
He's fast.
Okay, no problem.
This is, do you have your, the piece of paper you had earlier that you showed me? You gave it to her? Katie, will you say the number one more time for
2022-160 1837 Clifton Avenue. And I guess in light of the location, questions that the board, things the board would want to know would be hours of operation, your parking situation, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your project while Mr. French let's start with that.
Okay, sure. So I applied on behalf of Mr. Carmichael Kennedy with the Stokey project. The property was purchased last June from a former tenant, completely remodeled. There is a delicatessen on the first floor. The second floor was always just pretty much vacant and really used as just rampant storage and not really good upkeep. The property has been converted, does have appropriate permitting, et cetera, and the intent would be to use the secondary floor as a place for a barber shop and also a beauty suite as well. We're hoping that this would give the community an opportunity to be able to have somewhere to receive services as well as employment also. With regards to parking, there's ample street parking. So this building is located at the intersection of Clifton and Monroe. And the businesses that are adjacent is Shiloh Baptist Church, which is a large predominant Black Baptist church on the west side of Baltimore. And also there's a funeral home that also allows parking as well. So parking is definitely ample in the area.
Okay. Mr. French?
Okay. Planning Department didn't have, under these circumstances, have an opportunity to make an official comment on this. However, I would say that this property is eligible for neighborhood commercial establishment use, which is what is proposed here. If they can verify that the property square footage that would be used for the proposed additional use on the second floor is less than 2,500 square feet, then they would be exempt from any off-street parking requirements that the zoning code would otherwise impose.
Do you know the
Thank
square
you.
footage of the second floor?
That's about 800 square feet.
800?
Mhm.
That's well below 2,500. So, gentlemen, do you have any questions?
I don't have any information on it, so I can't have any questions.
Well, I was saying that because it's technically, so what happened was the sign was properly posted and they got their notice, it just didn't make it to our schedule somehow. So, it's on our consent docket technically, that's why I'm giving you.
And why are we hearing it now?
Because they did everything right, it was on.
They did everything right. We didn't get it on our docket.
There was no opposition?
There was no opposition. We didn't get anything in the mail, and I waited to the end to see if there was anybody here in opposition.
Okay.
So the board, having heard your appeal, believes we have sufficient information to grant your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting, and thank you for posting correctly. and
Thank
everything.
you. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, two more now. Now that I'm correct about two more. 2022-176, 121 West Lake Avenue. The appellant is Robin Reed. Hi, are you Ms. Reed?
I am.
Will you raise your right hand and be sworn in?
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And I will defer to staff reports and planning reports.
So the request is to install 97-foot long, 6-foot high privacy fence on a corner side yard. Corner side yard 20 setback is 20 feet is required, 3 feet is proposed, a 17-foot variance is requested. We've received letters in opposition from community members in the file as well. The Homeowners Association disapproved the fence request as well. And again, I would note that the board does not have the authority to enforce Homeowners Association covenants. That's a private action. The other concerns for the letters in opposition regarding traffic visibility concerns, pedestrian safety, aesthetic concerns, and the variance standards would apply for this particular location.
Go ahead, Ms. French.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. However, the department notes that for fences going up on street corners, particularly if there's a substantial amount of traffic on one or both of those streets, it is wise to require the applicant to not have a 90-degree angle meeting of the two fences from each of the streets, but instead, as we put it, bevel the corner by at least 3 feet of setback from what would be the corner of the fence where the two would meet, to provide an appropriate sight distance for vehicles and pedestrians approaching that intersection.
So either rounded or like cut off like that?
Yeah, pretty much the same idea as the corner store concept in Old Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Only for a fence.
Yep. Ms. Reed, tell us about your fence. First, before you do that, you're on the corner of Lake and
Kenmore Road.
Okay, I was
And
pulling it up.
I can show you a map, and the fence would not go around, it's just basically one side. And it would be 17 feet back from the, oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm new at this.
No worries.
And I did not have any idea that the association was going to be responding, because the last I spoke to them, they said we'd hopefully get back to you with a yes.
Well, luckily for you, we don't have to concern ourselves with the association today. Unfortunately, that will be a problem for you maybe later, but for us today, we're just looking at the variance needed for your fence. So tell us about your house, the fence, and everything.
Okay, well, here is a map.
Sure.
And let's see.
We can do this.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's Kenmore Road. Sorry, here's Kenmore Road, and this is Lake Avenue. And the fence would start 17 feet back from the inside of the sidewalk, because I do want to allow for visibility, because I go out this street constantly. And it would go right almost to the edge here.
Of your property?
Of my property, and it would be basically 3 feet back from the inside edge of the sidewalk.
So this is 3 feet, Otis. This
Yes.
is 17 feet. This is Kenmore. This is Lake. And across the street from you is a golf course, right?
Yes, and a chain link fence.
And this would be 17 feet right here?
So her fence ends 17 feet before the corner.
Oh.
So it's just a one side. It's literally just one long fence.
Yeah, just one.
across the
I
front
can
of
show
your-
you a picture of one that would be sort of a comparable. And this is one, when I had the association, I approved, that's on a block south of me.
Okay.
And this is 4 feet, but mine would be 6 feet. But that's the look, and mine would actually be farther back.
Okay. So a little taller and a little farther back than this one.
Exactly, and the reason is because I'm just trying to cut down on trash, privacy. I don't want to find any more dead Labradors in my yard.
Oh my goodness.
And foxes. And my trees are being hit by the fumes. I think you should have gotten two letters from neighbors for my application.
Your next door neighbors or neighbors?
Next door neighbors.
Okay, on one side.
One on 119 and one a block over at 607.
Gotcha.
So hopefully they're in the file.
So the fence is only along the Westlake Avenue side?
Yes, sir.
And stops 17 feet from the...
Inside of the sidewalk. Because, again, I'm aware of the visibility, because I have to go out there all the time myself.
Yeah.
And I can show you fences in the neighborhood that have gone up, if you want to see other fences. I think mine would be a lot less obtrusive than this one that's...
Oh, that one's like stone and wood.
3 houses down from me at the corner of Lake and Roland.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's how it looks from Roland.
I'm sorry, so you can see that map.
You want the map, or you want to see her fence photos?
Just be sure I understand.
You know where that part of Lake is, right? Across on the...
Yeah.
I have the benefit of having gone to Roland Park Country School.
Okay, well then you know the traffic also. And this is a 6-foot fence that the neighborhood did approve for a house at the corner of Belmore and North Charles.
Okay.
And then...
You want to see all the other fences in the neighborhood?
And then here's another...
Give us everything you have.
Okay. This is a double fence at the corner of Cotswold and Northern Parkway that there's just almost no sidewalk.
More neighborhood fences.
And this is the original drawing that Home Depot had done when they were going to install the fence.
Okay.
It's not as detailed. So again, it's really more for privacy, litter, save my trees, because the fumes from the salt and the traffic have really hit them, according to the tree pros.
And are these within the same blocks that you're in?
No, the one you've got, the top one, that's on Northern Parkway, so that would be about 5 blocks south. I mean, I can show you one that's on the block.
Would you consider that your same neighborhood, though?
Technically, it's not my neighborhood.
Okay.
Or in my association. That is my neighborhood. That's North Charles, and Belmore. That is 4 houses down from me at Roland and Westlake, and that is also, that's their fence.
Same house?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Trying to see if there's any other. Does anyone else have any other questions?
No. Just for the record, so when it ends 17 feet before Kenmore on Lake, correct?
It's 17 feet from the inside sidewalk on Kenmore. So basically, let's say this is Kenmore Road. Then you have a little grassy plot. Then you have a sidewalk. And then you go 17 feet in.
Okay.
That's where my fence would begin.
So it's more from the actual street, is what you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because again, the visibility. Because I commute to DC sometimes in the morning, and getting out before 7:30, if you need all the help you can get.
Yeah.
And are there any, I guess the reasons you gave that it would be the shape of your property or the location, the hardship is creating to need this variance is that you're having issues with trash, you're having issues with animals?
Yes, and we've been fighting, when I was president of the association, we asked the city to come up with a traffic plan because of all the troubles we'd had. And they basically said that the road was needed to stay as is for fire trucks to go through. And by the way, just this April, we got speed cameras installed. My first suggestion was 2 stop signs, but they said people run stop signs.
Is there any reason why you could not have the fence go further back, even where it's located now?
Well, I'm trying to preserve the trees. That's the problem. This sort of came up also because the tree guy came to look at my trees and said the salt and the fumes from the roads is killing them. So I've had them sort of cut back to about, I had the bottom 8 feet cut.
In order to make
to put the fence and save the trees.
Okay, so in order to move the fence back, do we have to cut the trees back some more or something like that?
Or the trees would be on the other side of the fence. Either way, it's not going to serve the purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So it's just sort of, and I don't want to put any new plantings necessarily in until I know about this. And it's, it's just, it's also for some quiet too. Maybe, hopefully it'll buffer the noise a little bit.
Understood. Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else, gentlemen? All right, Ms. Reed, thank you for your, let me make sure we have all of your things together. Here, put this with everything
You can have
else.
them if you want them.
Well, no, we're going to keep them in the
okay.
file as evidence, yes.
Oh, okay.
And you give us copies of all of these things already, right? Let me see. I know we have that.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
What is this?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, no, this is our own rules, huh? We don't, ideally, we don't need those. You can keep those ones.
I've never done this before.
You did a great job, it's fine. Yeah. So we're going to deliberate right now, as we've been doing. Yeah. Gentlemen?
I'm going to start with uniqueness. Work your way to.
I think that the property is unique because of the trees and where they are on the property line. And that it'd be different if she was gonna plant trees tomorrow and they're brand new, but you can tell from going on Google Maps, these are old trees. They've been there a long time, so. I think that at least for because we're not discussing a variance in the height. 6 feet height is fine, right? It just says, right, it just says
No, you're
corner.
not talking about a height variance. You're talking about the fact that something's being built on, it's a setback variance, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just, because we've had ones where it's been a fence height variance. I was just making sure we weren't even talking about the height of the fence at all.
I was told it was because I wanted a 6-foot fence.
We're actually in deliberations.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to clear it up. Yeah.
So I think if the fence were lower, she would not need that setback.
Oh, gotcha. It works together. Gotcha.
Okay.
It is a 20-foot variance required because she wants a 6-foot high fence.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So it is a 17-foot variance. I think that part of what's written though is that it's a corner side yard, but her fence is not a corner fence.
Right.
So it does that change? Like,
Well, it's because her property's on a corner.
even though the fence is not going to do the fence is not going to turn the corner?
No, it's because her property is a corner, and so she's putting it on the side. Even though it doesn't turn the corner, she's still putting it on the side, so she still needs the variance.
Okay.
Because if it did come all the way to the end of the corner and didn't make that turn, it would still be an issue.
Well, then technically, she already has a 17-foot variance. of the fence. It's 17 feet back from Kenmore. Does it have to be 17 feet back from both streets?
It would, because if she ran it all the way to the end of West Lake, that's the corner, it's the corner of Kenmore
And West Lake, yeah.
Right.
I'm confused. Is there an existing fence on Kenmore?
No.
There's nothing now.
So she's asking for a fence on Lake Avenue and Kenwood.
Nope, just Lake Avenue.
Well, that's what I asked. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
I misunderstood what you
Yeah,
said.
but because, so if she ran a one-sided fence all the way down Kenmore that butt into Lake, she would be at the corner, right? So she would need a variance from Lake and Kenmore.
So she still needs a variance from Lake and Kenmore for this one, even though technically, she only needs a variance from Lake because her fence is already 17 feet from Kenmore. So that's what she says and what she says is.
What she said in testimony today, but I don't think, that didn't come in the we didn't see a map in the application, right? If I remember right?
I'm not sure, but it's definitely 17 feet on the Kenmore side. It's set back.
The required setback is 20 feet.
Oh, so she would need.
Still needs a 3-foot variance.
So she needs a 3-foot variance for one side and
from essentially the post, right?
Right, just for the post, and then a 17-foot variance for the other side. I mean, I don't have a problem with either one. I was just trying to see if, because it was just a long, I think that the uniqueness comes in with the trees and the uniqueness and hardship are with where the trees are. And what are the other?
Whether based on the uniqueness of the property for the variance are not generally applicable to other properties in the same zoning classification.
I mean, the other houses, the one 2 blocks from her at Roland has essentially this fence, but a little bit more severe.
Agreed. I mean, that house next to it doesn't have a fence, but you see, within the same area there are other fences.
Yeah.
Hardship is not created by the intentional action of the person who's.
Like I said, these aren't new trees she's trying to put in.
Okay.
She's not creating a line and then being like, well, now I can only put my fence here because I just planted these brand new trees.
To increase it's not solely to increase the value or income potential of the property. It won't hurt the use and enjoyment of the property in the immediate vicinity.
No.
Or substantially diminish and impair property values. We have no evidence of that, and we came to testify about that. It's in harmony with the code. It's not precluded by urban renewal or any of the plans. We don't have anything about that. The variance will not otherwise be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare, or contrary to public interest.
I think her bringing it, making it not go around the bend, then we don't have to worry about that corner cut. It's not endangering the sight lines, which was planning's main concern.
Right, and the letters talked about traffic, but we had.
I think they thought she was turning the corner with the fence.
Turning the corner, and we have no evidence from like an expert saying that this is going to be detrimental to.
You'll be able to see around it. If you're stopped on Kenmore trying to make a right or left, or a right specifically onto Lake Avenue, no, a left, you'll be able to see what's coming from your right because there'll be more than 17 feet of available sight line. Okay.
Make a motion to approve for the stated reasons.
Agree. Yes, I also agree with that.
I'm a yes for reasons we've just discussed.
Yes as well.
I'm a yes.
All right.
Are there any more documents we need to put in the file?
I handed.
I have the scans or the printout. Anything else?
From hers?
Yeah.
No, it's just a bunch of fence pictures.
Got 'em.
Depot thing, and then her lovely map that was hand drawn. All right. Last but certainly not least, again, thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
2022-177, 2310 Whittier Avenue. The appellant is Joel M. White. All right. State your name for the record and spell it for us.
Joel White, Joel, White, White.
Please raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, Mr. White, let's take a break for 1 second and we'll hear from staff and planning.
I do have a quick question for you, Mr. Wright, before we jump in. Are you asking for 3 units or 4?
Three.
Three.
They mistake the
Okay.
person's
That
basement
makes
as
a big
right.
difference for us.
I heard this all over.
Because
But-
this was,
I mean, I have what I asked, and that's what I have the document I slid under the counter. What came out is what you have there asking for 4. I slid a 3 under the counter.
So your application was for 3 units.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
someone submitted a construction permit for you for 4 units. So that
Well,
permit.
once the, this is what I submitted.
Right, and that said 3, so I'm good with that,
And
but,
then once it came, when the guy came back from behind the counter, he came back with 4 units, and I figured, he looked at the documents, and it's the 2 kitchen thing. I have a kitchen in the basement and a kitchen on the first floor. When the grandkids come over, I shove them in 1 unit, and I live in the other unit.
I don't blame you. Okay, so it's, all right, so I just want to be clear that it's 3 units.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that changes the minimum lot area. So the request is to use as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 units and to construct a second floor rear staircase for access to rooftop of an existing detached garage and required rear yard deck. The minimum lot area is 3,300 square feet. What's proposed is 2,180 square feet.
Is it still 3,300 if it's only 3 units?
No, I don't.
It has to be less than that, right?
Yeah, that would change.
So I need to know what the minimum lot area would be for 2 units. 2,750, all right.
2753?
2,750 for 3 units.
For
And what he
3.
has is 21.
On the website for the past,
Just 1 second. We'll get there, I promise. Let us get our math all right.
So he's asking for a 21% variance.
How many total square feet?
So if he's got 2,180 square feet that's proposed, let me do the math, hold on. 570, so it's 570 square feet variance.
All right. Does that change the rear yard setback at all?
No, that'll be the same. The footprint would still be the same. So the rear yard setback, 25 feet is required, 0 is proposed, so it's a 25-foot setback. So
Okay.
we had a letter from the new Alcontrolli Terrace Association in opposition. They argue that a basement should not be a standalone unit and the building isn't large enough for 4 dwelling units, but now we've got 3, right? And they said that the owner hasn't maintained the property, leaving it to degrade in increasingly hazardous conditions, including collapsed roof that has resulted in water intrusion into other buildings.
Based on that, before Mr. French goes, let me ask you a couple of questions. How long have you owned this building?
I purchased it in 1978.
Okay. And how many units is it right now? 1?
It was purchased at 3 units, and it went, and when I moved, once I took possession, I found out that it was that thing that you were talking about, where it was just 3 units for 20 years before, but it never had a license. So over the years, it took me about 2 years to get the license and the variances. So it was licensed, last use, it was licensed as a multiple family 3 dwelling units. And once it goes into disrepair, because the water ran into from the 2 houses on the left and the right, and the city wouldn't let me stabilize somebody else's houses. So I lost my house and had to release my tenants. And now the 2 houses on the side have been rehabilitated. Mine's is the eyesore that needs to be, and that's why I'm here now.
Okay.
So just to update, in the land use code, we have, I'm just looking really quickly, so we have 2 dwelling units in the permit system. So it's already an established multifamily with at least 2, and the land use cards, I'm gonna go and look at those real quick while Mr. French.
Planning Department would have opposed 4 units, but as the applicant has amended the application to 3 units, the department has no further comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. So I can tell you it's an existing multifamily with at least 2 units.
Call it one owner occupied.
One owner occupied.
2 units, one on the occupied, I lived in one.
And the owner occupied one, that's the one, you said you have 2 kitchens in your unit.
Well, now that's the proposed, that'll be 2 kitchens. There'll be one in the basement and one on the first floor.
Okay. Does anyone else have any further questions for Mr. White?
So what's the condition of the property right now as we speak?
It's a disaster area. Caved-in roof. I don't see why anybody would complain to me bringing it back to life again.
But you're blaming it on the adjacent properties?
Yes. They
Were
took me out.
occupied at the time?
No. There was a fire in 2314, you know, the drug addicts on the 3rd floor. 2312 completely engulfed. Fire department used my building as the fire break to stop the fire, the block from burning down. My house was restored. 2314 was restored. 2312 was never done, and they wouldn't let. They found out that the guy owner was in jail over in D.C. Had a storefront. I went over there, no one was there. I couldn't get the administration to give me permission to use my own money to stabilize 2312. So I had to release my tenants because that whole wall was messed up.
Yeah.
Everything he's saying is accurate about that. It's the DHCD's policy not to, even though neighbors want to, the city can't give you permission because that would then be giving you permission to trespass on someone else's property.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Some people do the self-help rule.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any further questions?
No.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to add, Mr. White?
Well,
Do you have any?
The website says that the square footage is 2532 for the past, 70 years or whenever y'all went online. Okay, and I mean they've came up with another number that's about 400 feet smaller than that.
So you're saying that it's 2532, but what we have is 2180?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else, any other documents you want to give us, anything else you want to add to the file?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we're going to sit here and deliberate. You are welcome to stay here and listen in if you want.
Okay.
I mean, with 3 dwelling units and not 4, this seems like an easy yes for me.
Yeah. As far as uniqueness and hardship, it seems like this property needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
I agree, I think it's definitely a hardship.
Yeah.
Sure. And I'm going to vote yes.
So based upon application and testimony, I believe it meets the requirements. I believe there's uniqueness in this property. Its current state, because there's a hardship that needs to be overcome by getting these units into the building.
Yes.
So for those reasons, I approve.
I'm a yes as well.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
All right, so that's it. We believe we've gone through all of the contested matters, and the rest were all consent.
So we are now.
Oh wait,
wait a minute.
there is one. There's one that we need to call again. That would be 2022-173, 1315 Harlem Avenue. The appellant is Bashar Hijazi.
Is that what you're here for, ma'am?
I'm here about 901 Fell Street.
Oh, that one was postponed. We said that at the very top of the meeting. I'm so sorry that,
I came in late. I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries. Hopefully you learned something a little bit, maybe. Okay, good.
You guys do a great job.
Thank you. We don't have a new trial date for, no, yeah. It is June 21st. That one will be.
Oh, no, 901 Fell? That has not been rescheduled, does not have a date. That one, she's got some permit issues she has to resolve before that can be rescheduled.
So just keep a look for the sign.
Yeah, it will have to be reposted.
Look for a sign. Thank
Yep.
you so very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and I guess with the calling of the last one.
So I'm going to postpone 2022-173, 1315 Harlem Avenue.
And if they fail to reschedule, then it'll be dismissed. Yep. Then that concludes the docket. We are off the record, and the docket is now closed.